I killed my daughter. I killed my daughter. My daughter is dead.
In August 2023, a tragic and shocking story unfolded in the quiet town of Woking, Surrey, in the United Kingdom. It was a case that would capture headlines and leave the public stunned. 10-year-old Sarah Sharif was found dead in her home under horrific circumstances. The story behind her death would reveal a tale of abuse, neglect, and a family on the run, sparking a worldwide manhunt. But who was responsible for her death? What happened to her? And how did her family play a role in this tragedy? It was the morning of August 10, 2023, when authorities were alerted to a chilling discovery. Police were called to the home of Sarah Sharif after an unexpected call from her father, Irfan Sharif.
I killed my daughter. I killed my daughter. My daughter is dead. Panic and left her.
Who's killed your daughter?
It's me.
Okay.
The father.
How?
I said she was naughty and physically chastised.
I'm going to need you to slow down, okay? How have you killed your daughter?
I beat her up. It wasn't my intention to kill her, but I beat her up too much.
When they arrived at the house,
Police, hello, anyone in?
they found the body of 10-year-old Sarah. The scene that greeted them was one of devastation. The girl had been living with her father, stepmother, and younger siblings in the house, but now the home was silent. Sarah's life had been taken. The police immediately suspected foul play, and as they began their investigation, they quickly realized that this was no ordinary case. Sarah's death was not a random act of violence. It became clear that she had been a victim of long-term abuse. Early reports suggested that Sarah's cause of death was likely the result of sustained and extended physical abuse. This was not the result of a one-time incident, but rather years of suffering at the hands of those who should have cared for her most, her own family. As the police began their investigation, they were struck by an alarming fact. Sarah's father, Irfan Sharif, and his wife, Binash Batul, had fled the UK with their children just days before Sarah's body was discovered. The family had left for Pakistan, raising suspicions that they were somehow connected to Sarah's death. It seemed too coincidental to be ignored. Just before Sarah's tragic death, the family had packed up and left, and now they were nowhere to be found. The UK police immediately issued an international arrest warrant for Irfan Sharif, his wife Binash Batul, and his brother Kashif Anwar, urging Pakistani authorities to assist in locating them. It was soon revealed that the family had traveled to Pakistan, and this sparked an international manhunt for those believed to be responsible for the death of the young girl. The case quickly gained media attention, and the public's reaction was one of shock and disbelief. How could anyone treat a child like this? How could a father and stepmother, entrusted with the care of their children, subject Sarah to such unimaginable cruelty? People across the UK, and even internationally, were demanding answers. The story of Sarah's death became a symbol of the ongoing fight against child abuse and a call for justice. As the investigation continued, new details began to emerge about Sarah's life. It was revealed that Sarah's father, Irfan Sharif, had been involved in a previous incident where he had been reported for abusive behavior. These reports had raised red flags for authorities, but no action had been taken at the time. It was now clear that Sarah had been living in a toxic, dangerous environment, and her tragic death was the heartbreaking result of years of abuse. The manhunt for the Sharif family intensified as authorities worked with their counterparts in Pakistan. It was a race against time. Sarah's family was in hiding, and every moment that passed without their capture meant more time for the truth to remain hidden. The authorities knew that if they were to get to the bottom of Sarah's death, they needed to find the family quickly. After days of searching, the Pakistani authorities finally located Irfan Sharif, his wife, and his brother. The family had been living in hiding, but they could not escape. They were detained and questioned about their role in Sarah's death. The moment of truth had arrived. Would they confess to the crime, or would they continue to deny their involvement?
Sarah's death was an incident. We are willing to cooperate with the UK authorities and fight our case in court.
The arrest of Sarah's father, stepmother, and uncle was a crucial step in the investigation. The police now had the key suspects in custody, and the search for justice was one step closer. However, the investigation was far from over. There were still many questions that needed to be answered. How exactly did Sarah die? Was anyone else involved in her abuse? And what had led to this horrific act of violence in the first place? Sarah's death raised difficult questions about child protection and the failure of authorities to intervene earlier. How had Sarah's suffering gone unnoticed for so long? How had a child, living under the care of her own father, been allowed to endure such abuse? These were questions that many were asking as the case unfolded. The public outrage was palpable. People were demanding that justice be served for Sarah, and they were not prepared to let those responsible go free. In the days and weeks that followed, the investigation continued to gather evidence. Sarah's family members were questioned extensively, and their accounts were carefully examined. The authorities were determined to get to the bottom of this case and bring the perpetrators to justice. The legal process began, and it became clear that the road to justice for Sarah would be long and difficult. But the hope was that in the end, those responsible for her death would be held accountable. The tragedy of Sarah Sharif's death has left a lasting impact on those who followed the case. It has shone a light on the dangers of child abuse and the importance of vigilance in protecting children. It has also raised important questions about the role of social services and law enforcement in preventing such tragedies. How could Sarah's suffering have been prevented? What more could have been done to protect her? As the case continues to develop, the hope remains that justice will be served for Sarah. The investigation into her death is ongoing, and charges are expected to be filed against those responsible for her abuse and death. The public continues to demand answers, and the authorities remain committed to ensuring that justice is done. The death of Sarah Sharif is a heartbreaking reminder of the vulnerability of children and the devastating consequences of abuse. It is a tragic story of a young girl whose life was taken far too soon, and whose suffering was hidden behind closed doors for far too long. But in her death, Sarah has become a symbol of the need for change, for vigilance, and for justice. Her story is not over. It is just the beginning of a fight for justice that will continue until those responsible for her death are brought to account. The legacy of Sarah Sharif is one that should inspire us all to take action, to protect the most vulnerable among us, and to ensure that no child has to suffer the way she did. Her story, though tragic, will hopefully serve as a catalyst for change, and a reminder that we must never turn a blind eye to the suffering of children. Sarah Sharif deserves justice, and we must ensure that she gets it. Sarah Sharif's story is a heartbreaking chapter in the fight for justice and a safer world for all children. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe Crime Orbit channel. See you next time in another video. Till take care yourself and your loved ones. Thanks.